Hello students, welcome to the Pole Science of class 10, and today we will proceed with the revision process of the chapter Federalism, and we will see the points that we have learned so far. We will try to revise also, and we will try to understand also from the beginning of this chapter Federalism. So let us proceed then. So, if you remember about federalism, the definition was what? It is a system of government in which power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. So, as we have studied this definition earlier, so we can relate now. That means federal system is the form of system in which what power is shared or divided between what? A central authority and various constituent units of the country. First of all, we had read the federal form of government as the power shared between central and state government. But one more constituent units was added, and that was what? Local government. That may be of Panchayati Raj also or Block Mandal also, which is related to what? Towns or cities or the village level. After that, there are two levels of government. Two examples are shown actually. This first example is about the federal form of government, and the next example that we'll see is about the unitary form of government. So starting with two levels of government, that means it supports what? Federal form of government. As you can see in the background, there is a flag, and that flag is related to the country United States of America. So United States of America is what? A federal form of government. So number one is government for the entire country. That means what? In the federal form of government, suppose for example in USA, there are what? One government for the entire country. That means in the union level or central level. After that, governments at the level of provinces or states. That means in every state there might be some state government also, or provincial government can also be there. After that, both enjoy power independent of the other. So in this federal form of government, suppose for say example of the USA, there what happens? State government also enjoys the independent power. That means they are not interfered by the central government, and in the same way the central government also enjoy similar independent power, and there is no one to interfere while they exercise their powers. After that, state government has power of its own and not answerable to the center. That means, as I've told you earlier in number 3 point, that both the government enjoys what? Separation of powers. This federal form of government works on what? Principle of separation of powers. That means they have separate powers and they exercise it, whatever the powers are given to them, and nobody can interfere. Either the state government also cannot interfere in the work of central government, and the central government is also not interfering in the work of state government, and they are not answerable also. They should not give any clarification regarding exercising of any power. Clear? This is related to the federal form of government, which is present in the states in the country of United States of America. Example, as you can see, it's given USA. After that comes unitary government. So in unitary government, by the word itself only you can look here that unitary means one. That means only one level of government is present in the unitary form of government. Clear? Then after that, subunit, subordinate. That means subunits are there. Suppose, say for example, in federal form of government, state governments are also there. Like that only, subunits are there below that central government, where only one level of government is there. After that, center can pass orders to the local government, and whatever the subunits or the local governments or the state governments are present in the unitary form of government, there what happens? all the powers is also with the union government, that means central government, and they only pass what? Orders. That means all the powers are there, whatever they want to take, they wish to implement orders, they wish to implement any power to any of the states, they can do it by their own wish, and the local government or the state government does not have any power. So only thing that the center does or gives to the local government or the state government is only the order. That means what they are telling or telling them to implement, the local government implements that. So as by the background of the picture you can see that the flag is related to the country United Kingdom. So example of unitary government is the United Kingdom. After that, we had read the features of federalism. That means what were the features actually? These all portions we have read earlier only, but we are doing revision work just to understand that how much we have learned and how much you have understood the chapter federalism. So after that, there are features of federalism. Number one is it has two or more levels of government. Obviously that means two means clearly if it has two, then it must be central government and the state government, and if it has more than two, that means provincial or constituent units are there. Just for example, say of India, there are three levels, and the lower level or the third level is the local government. After that, each level has its own power of jurisdiction. Clear? And each of the three level, I am taking the example of India. If India has three levels of government, that means that the central government, the state government, and the local government, everyone has their own power and jurisdiction. That means they work according to the powers given by the constitution. And as I have said you earlier, that no one can interfere in each other's powers or whatever the implementation they are doing. So three of them are three levels of government, as there are three levels of government. So these three levels of government are completely independent. They are not answerable to anyone. After that, jurisdiction is specified by the constitution, and there is a constitutional guarantee of authority. That means jurisdiction is specified by the constitution. Clear? That means whatever the powers, functions are given, and whatever the laws they are making and implementing, these are all given by whom? The constitution, which is the supreme in a country like India. And there is constitutional guarantee of authority, and whatever the laws they are implementing, these have what? Constitutional guarantee. That means that must be followed or abide by the central, the state, or the village level or the local level government should abide by the constitution only while implementing these laws. After that, constitutional provisions can be changed only with the consent of both levels of government, and whatever the provisions or amendments, if changes are to be made, that cannot be made only with the wish of state government or a central government. So if you want the provisions to be made or to be changed, then what is the system? The system is clear that both the level of governments should come and discuss the particular thing that they want to amend, and after that only, with the proper consent of both the central government and the state government, these provisions can be changed. Clear? After that, court interprets the constitution and powers of different levels of government. And what is the duty of court now? The court, as it is the highest level, so it interprets what? The constitution and powers of different levels of government. Supreme Court is the umpire if disputes arise with the different levels of government. This line we have read earlier also regarding the court, as Supreme Court is the supreme law-making body and all have to abide by the Supreme Court. So what does the court does? Court interprets the constitution and powers of the different levels of government. They interpret each and every level of government, be it central level or the union, central or union, or state or the local government. So Supreme Court acts as what? An umpire. If disputes suddenly arise, suppose, just say for example that if conflicts or disputes arises between the state and the central government, then the Supreme Court comes in between and it tries to solve this dispute. Clear? After that, sources of revenue are clearly specified. If you remember that, what are the sources of income of the state and central government? This income are in the form of taxes, and these taxes are collected by the central government also and by the state government also in the form of different types of revenue which are clearly specified. Clear? After that, as we have read previously about features, now we will read about the objectives of federalism. That means, what are the objectives of federalism? Don't be confused. If question comes, write two objectives and two features of federalism. So we have already learned about features of federalism. Now we will learn about or understand about the objectives of federalism. And the first objective of the federalism is to safeguard and promote the unity of the country. So the first and foremost objective of federalism is what? To safeguard also and to promote also. If we take the example of our country India, then we can see that while making the constitution also, the persons behind the framing of constitution, they kept always in mind about protecting the unity and integrity of the country. Just like that only, if we talk about objectives of federalism, that is also same. That means federalism always wants to safeguard and promote the unity of the country. Clear? So because if the unity of a country is maintained and safeguarded, then what will happen? People living in India or country like India will be living happily. After that, the second objectives of federalism is to accommodate regional diversity, and along with maintaining the unity and safeguarding the unity of country, they also have to accommodate what? Regional diversity. As you know that India is such a big country having different religions, different languages. So based on that only, they also have to accommodate, they also have to take care of all the regional diversity that are present. If suppose for example, if we go to the east, there is a different language, culture. Then if we go to the west, we will find another culture and languages being spoken. Then respectively in the north and south also there is regional diversity. So the second objective of federalism is related to this only, that it is there to accommodate what? Regional diversity. That means it will take all the regional diversity within its jurisdiction, and it will try to accommodate it so that regional diversity can also be safeguarded and the unity of the country can also be promoted and safeguarded. Clear? After that, two crucial aspects of an ideal federalism. That means, what are the two most important aspects of an ideal federalism? If we talk about federalism, that means how should an ideal federalism be like? Number one, governments at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing. That means if you want that India is already following federalism, that if you want that India should be called an ideal federalism, a country with ideal federalism, so two crucial aspects are there by which India can also be called as a country of ideal federalism. Number one is what? Governments at different levels. That means we assume that there are three levels of government, namely central, state and the local government. So all these levels of government should agree what? To some rules of power sharing. That means within themselves only they should decide and should agree to some rules of power sharing, that by suppose by giving advantages, some advantages to the central government, or by giving some advantages to the state government, and also by giving some advantages to the local government. In this way they can do what? They can agree also, and they can come to some conclusion regarding power sharing. So if this is done, then what will happen? Whatever the disputes which usually occurs between the central or state would not be occurred in the near future. For that reason also, this government at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing. Second point is trust and agreement to live together must be there. And apart from agreeing to some rules of power sharing, they should also trust and agree to live together. So these three things, if this different forms of government in the federal form of government or federalism follows, then it can be said that a country which is actually following federalism can be called as an ideal federalism. Number one is what? That different levels of government should agree to some rules of power sharing, and number two is to build trust and agreement, that they can live together for a longer period of time and they will maintain trust within themselves. So if they do these two things, that means that they can be called as an ideal federalism. So with this we come to an end of today's topic. That was actually the revision topic, and in the next class we will further proceed to some more revision topic that we have already read, and we'll try to understand this chapter federalism in a better way. So with this I will wind up today's topic. Thank you.